Hi guys, Martin Curry from Belief Media. Welcome to our latest podcast called SDA Property. Hi guys, welcome once again, Martin Curry from Belief Media. I'm here with Anthony Spagnolo, the Principal Agent and Property Strategist at Agenzia Property Strategists. How are you, Anthony?
Good, thanks, Marty. How you going?
I'm excellent, thanks, mate. I've known Anthony for a little while. He's a good friend. We're located, we work in the same area, and met Anthony, I don't know, 18 months ago or so.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
Yeah. Anthony's one of the most prolific and capable and actually really extraordinary property guys in the industry. And I'm going to go into why. I know you don't like hearing that, but there are a lot of people in the space that position themselves in a way where they assign certain value to themselves and make themselves out to be, property moguls, when in fact, they're not. They just play a particular role in order to attract and convert clients, whereas you're quite the opposite. You're one of the most capable property guys that's involved in so many different facets of the industry, yet you keep such a low profile. So I'll come back to all of that. It's a bit of a rap, yeah. But no, it's legit. You just won't admit to it. You're too humble. But the Agenzia Property Consultants, tell us how that got started.
Okay, so probably started, close to the time when we met 18 months ago. So my background was accounting. Was looking for a bit of a career change. I was always around property. That was a family business. Father was into property development, so I was always involved to a certain extent. So once I got out of accounting, I decided to work in that side of the business. Along the way, through project managing some of our larger projects, I decided to get my builder's license. So I thought that, on-site sort of, project management was sort of the route I was going to go. However, I started developing my own sites on a smaller scale with townhouses and duplexes. And from there, I just felt that probably coming from an accounting background, not quite as hands-on on the building site. So I did miss the interaction working with clients. So I decided it's probably a bit of a hybrid between the two from what I did as an accountant and what I was doing in property. So combine the two and set up the property advisory business and have a look back. It's been good.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Now, you're obviously an accountant who's had you said the other day when we were chatting, 20 years experience in accounting. You've had different careers kind of overlap there, but 20 years as a practicing accountant.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
It's a long time.
Yeah, so
Considering you're so bad at math.
I'm not your typical accountant, as you've told me previously.
No, not at all.
Wouldn't pick it, but I do still enjoy the analytical side. It's just more focused on property and not tax law.
Yeah, well, I think that's where most guys that like to, again, call themselves property strategists or property experts and whatnot fall over. What you can do with numbers and what you can do in terms of projections and predictions and stuff is just, it's obviously comparable with what I guess most accountants are very good at. But you've got the property knowledge as well, so you're able to sort of morph the two and just create these amazing reports that...
Well, that does help with your software and your assistants as well.
Yeah. Anthony uses our software and social media systems and so on. But no, he's obviously. But you're obviously you said you're a licensed builder. You are obviously a licensed real estate agent. And you're the principal, obviously, of Agenzia, but you're also a qualified mortgage broker. Now, why a lot of our guys are mortgage brokers? Why would you then choose to gain that qualification?
Oh, the opportunity was there, obviously through your connections. You sort of gave me a bit of advice to why the opportunity is there to sort of look into it. It was more so just for self-education and we do a lot of transactions with our clients, so I already had it even from my accounting days. Did the back end sort of compiling all the financials and whatever was required for a client to get a loan. So I sort of had a bit of an intricate understanding, I guess. However, it's just good to have that extra level of knowledge. Like, not that I want to practice as a broker by no means.
No.
It's more so just to have that extra level, I guess.
Yeah. Did it help? I remember when you were doing the course, and it's only 5 days you went through and did the diploma. So did it help? Did it add to your knowledge?
I think it has. Yeah, definitely. In like a few of the brokers we work with, when I see their breakdowns and like what a client needs to do if they're not ready now, the roadmap that's required, and do this, save this amount because your deposit's short, your serviceability is fine, but yeah, set up another bank account, move this here. Maybe if the wife can earn some extra income, just to increase. Yeah, there's different things you can do going forward. So not every client's ready right away, but if you work with a smart broker, you can definitely give the client a bit of a roadmap for the best way forward.
Yeah, what you've described, though, is not typical of all brokers, and we'll come back to that later. Now, you obviously deal in commercial, residential developments, and it's worth mentioning that you have your own developments. That's something else I like about you. Practice what you preach. You go out and you develop duplexes in your own homes and your own properties and so on, which is not, again, necessarily typical of most people in the property space. When people come to you, they know that you're falling back not just on the experience you've had with other people, but that which you've experienced yourself. And you were just talking, but before we started recording, you were talking about the education you kind of gave yourself in the years, the 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 years, whatever it was that you were developing yourself, and how you could develop in different areas to maximize profit and so on, and how that experience sort of led you into a career helping others achieve exactly the same thing. But it's not all about property investment and so on. It's also about people buying their first home. You deal with everything, don't you?
Oh, 100%. More so, it's always been a service that we offer to first home buyers, but probably previously we focused more on investors because it's a bit of an easy, because we operate in multiple states. An investor usually just looks at the numbers and some projections as well, whereas with a first home buyer, it's a very emotional decision. So to start off with the business, we just thought it was a little bit more streamlined just to focus on one area. However, we've all had, you just, even though you're targeting one sort of client, you're never going to say no to other clients. And in the last, say, 3 months, obviously with the current climate that we're in, with COVID and the government grants that have been the new builder, 25,000, and obviously the capping of the stamp duty going up to 800k. It's made there's no better time than now to purchase a new property as a first home buyer. So we've had a really big and a really big influx in that area, and developed several relationships. And yeah, that's sort of something we've been more focused on now than previously.
The first home buyer one is one that intrigues me. Now and to say there's no better time to buy into property. We're in an emerging recession. We do have COVID-19. It looks like the economy is essentially going to be shut down for at least the rest of the year. Victoria's in turmoil. Borders are closed.
Doesn't sound like the best time. But
all right, no.
Whilst interest rates are at all-time low,
interest rates
government
at all-time
grants.
low.
Like, I've got clients that had no deposit and they're able to now still purchase the property. So if anything, it's given them a helping hand. Like, you got different analysts saying that the property market is going to go backwards, but they said that 3 months ago, and it seems like it hasn't. Like Commonwealth Bank said, 30%. It hasn't dropped anywhere near that.
They've revised that to 10%.
Yeah, well,
and even 10% is nothing. If you can get into the property market with a 10% drop in the acquisition cost, and you can use of those 3 available grants, which all have their own criteria. Not everyone qualifies for those. Obviously, you can almost guarantee we'll come out the other side of this recession and property prices will increase again. So there are so many different opportunities. Now, we talked before as well, there are different opportunities there with people buying off the plan and builder and developer cashbacks and all sorts of things.
And also the first home buyer deposit scheme. Yeah.
First home deposit. There's 3 different government schemes at the moment that all contribute towards this accessibility to the product that we've never had in the past. So yeah, I know when you say there's no better time to buy into the market, a lot of people kind of cringe at that because we are in the midst of a pandemic and the eastern seaboard is essentially shut down. But you are absolutely right. Statistically speaking, people obviously there is really no better time to get involved, and I've seen that myself firsthand with the work you're doing, and I've seen the response from some of the advertising you're doing, and the convertibility. That is not a word, but the nature upon which you can convert those inquiries coming through your various types of advertising you have in place and so on, and the capacity for each of those people to for their borrowing and serviceability and their interest as well is at an all-time high, and that blew me away because some of our brokers are having the complete opposite experience.
Once we've got the campaign going, we were pleasantly surprised that we've got some good traction, and I had some other marketing going on prior to that, and I was positive. Like it was more so like in Queensland that I knew the first home buyers were still there buying, and I'm seeing that every day with the conversations. There was a month or so there when everyone was, no, I want to hold off and see what happens with COVID, see where things are going. But that was in the early days. Now, I think a lot of people have moved on.
That was July. We got all that feedback, and my feedback from brokers at that point in time was the same. What we did internally is we completely restructured the way in which the marketing was done. We appealed to, normally there's certain groups of people you appeal to when you market and certain demographics, and you talk to them in a certain way and you make a particular promise. That's the purpose of advertising. You make a promise and your follow-up experience builds upon that, and the idea is to obviously get the inquiry and take them on a journey through to purchase. Well, it's pretty straightforward, I guess, but what I noticed and what I picked up on, because we did enormous amounts of audience testing, enormous amount of audience testing. And if you reach the right audience, there are some people that are prepared to engage. So if you bypass those groups that have typically been your mass market and you reach another tier, and the lead does cost a little bit more, you'll always pay a little bit more for a better lead. Oh. I said this to you, for example, when you were going into your and doing your advertising and stuff, and your ads are great. I really like the way you've done that. But when you went into it, I said, are you looking at getting 100 leads at $2, or are you looking at getting 20 leads for $5? And it's always better paying that little bit extra, but converting a really high number of them, rather than dealing with 100 people that don't have the capacity to borrow the money or service the loan, or don't have a deposit. And
it's just frustrating. I'd rather have less conversations and quality conversations and pay more, and it's just it's a better experience for me. Like if you go the other route, it feels like you're banging your head against the wall a little bit. So
you're wasting your time. It'll send you broke. If all you do all day is deal with dummy leads, all you're going to do is just waste your time. Yeah. So you have to deal with quality, and you're able to achieve that with your audience targeting and so on. So you've done a really good job.
100%. It's been really, really high level of leads that have been coming through.
Yeah, but you have had to pay a little bit more. Yeah. So once you come out of COVID, the economy perhaps shifts into a different gear. Then we can fall back on that traditional mass market. The more towards the smack bang middle, and even slightly left of the middle of the bell curve. But at the moment, you're leaning right.
So, I was going to say, what's to the left and what's to the right?
It's just the bell curve. You're an accountant, come on.
Yeah, I know what the bell curve, but which side's better to be on?
Well, no, what I mean is the far right of the bell curve is always a more expensive lead.
Okay.
You can go into a mortgage broker can go in and get a lead for a refinance or a first home buyer lead or a property guy for $1.50, $2, but they're not any good. That's the thing. If all leads turned out to be completely valid, then you'd have at least one of the top 100 brokers in the country that was writing his $150, $250 million a year on the back of Facebook, and that's not true. Most brokers aren't doing that sort of volume because leads are just that. Leads, prospects are just prospects, and even the opportunities don't always translate into something. So, and it's why we've seen recently, we've had one guy with a mortgage broker campaign that's converting about 75 to 85% of every single lead that comes through, and we did that by intentionally targeting very expensive leads. But the proposition was there, the unique value proposition, the positioning was ideal, and so on. And if you're able to achieve that, and it takes a while before you're able to identify that in your business and before you're able to reflect that in your marketing, your advertising, that's where you get super duper results. And then you just accept as many leads into your business as you're capable of writing. So he's now writing maybe 160 mil a year on the back of really good referrer systems and so on. But we won't go there because it really is. I do want to lean towards this property stuff because we've just talked about COVID and the COVID environment. I've always thought of NDIS or SDA Property as being as close to being COVID resistant or COVID proof. I know that's not a good name to use because everything has its risks and so on, but certainly the SDA Property and the SDA Property Investment, which is government backed and supports the government's NDIS scheme, has continued to deliver consistent, predictable, high yield results. Now, most people listening to this won't know what any of that is. What is the NDIS and how does SDA fit into that?
So NDIS is a National Disability Insurance Scheme, and the SDA is the Specialised Disability Accommodation component of that. So essentially it's disability housing. So it's, as you mentioned, it's still strong because the government have dedicated billions of dollars towards this the scheme for the next 20 years. So essentially, the funding is there. People are being approved for funding through their plans. So there's 30,000 people currently waiting for specialised housing. So supply has definitely not met demand, and it's not seen to be going to be met in the next 10 years. And if anything, that 30,000 is going to increase to around 50,000 people looking for specialised housing. So there's definitely a shortage, and while it's government backed and the government's essentially the ones paying the investor the rent, so essentially they will pay 75% directly, and then the other funds will go to the participant, who then will also pay you the balance of their rent, and that's just to give them some autonomy and a bit of feel like they're contributing, I guess. So it's the yields are very attractive in this space, and a lot better than any other investment in the residential market or commercial space. So you, on average, you're sort of getting between 8 to 15% net returns per annum. So it's triple to what you can get in a standard residential property. And
it can be higher. I know you don't like saying it. It can be high, but it can be very high. Some of the high yield properties are also the least accessible because of cost and so on. We might talk about those because they're the initial properties we looked at going back nearly 12 months. So NDIS, National Disability Insurance Scheme, government-run initiative, the largest scheme introduced.
Only second to Medicare?
Only second to Medicare. Then you've got the SDIA, which is a specialist disability insurance agency.
Yep.
What's that?
The agency so essentially the agency is it's like a management agency, so everything runs through them. So essentially you need to get a property approved by the SDA, by an accredited certifier, because there's a lot of compliance that goes into building these houses to be fully spec'd, so they're geared up to increase the quality of life or livability, I guess, for the participants. So they're quite strict on the criteria and what it takes to actually get a property approved. So essentially you do need to have the property approved prior to getting tenants living in the property. So once it is approved, you will be getting a 10 +5 lease with the SDA through the SDIA, which is the agency.
Okay, SDA again is Specialist Disability Accommodation. Now there are various tiers of, before I continue on to how they're all occupied and how investors get involved and all that sort of stuff, there are different tiers of SDA housing, aren't they? But you tend to focus on, I think, one or two, don't you?
High physical support is the highest tier, and then you got fully accessible, robust and improved livability. And so you've got...
That's four.
There's another
Give
one.
me a fifth. Sunshine.
No,
so that's okay.
No,
that's all right.
But anyway,
I don't
anyhow,
remember the one.
each level, fully accessible. Did I miss that one? Or no?
No, I think you squeezed that one in.
Yeah.
So, but you deal with what primarily?
Well, we cater for high physical support and fully accessible.
And what's the advantage of that?
Any of the lower levels can actually live in these houses. So the reason why you build to a higher spec is to allow for participants that have extra requirements, so wheelchair access and hoists in the rooms to get a participant in and out of their bed if they have higher sort of care needs. So the benefit of building to the highest level is that you can cater for all the lower levels, and also there's a SDA table of rates, which is essentially a table that indexes what the rate of return is depending on what level they are at. There's a location factor, and so it's quite complex. However, if you build to the highest level and you get the highest level within your house, then you're going to get the highest rate of return in the form of rental yields, I guess.
Okay. It gets complicated. I know it gets complicated. The first time I heard all this stuff, it just confused the living crap out of me, to be honest. So SDIA are not necessarily responsible for, SDIA, the insurance agency, is not necessarily responsible for the placing of participants in these homes. So if you're going to invest in one of these homes, if you're going to get one built and you want these returns and everything else, you can't just go to your local builder down the road and have him slap up something, on a big block of land. It is a very specific build. It obviously helps to have a builder or a developer or a contractor who has relationships with care providers. And this is what I'm getting at. Who are care providers? What do they do? And what is their part in all of
so
this?
essentially you've got a service provider as well, who's also an intermediary. So the service provider is essentially a high-level agency who, just like a sort of a management agent, like a standard real estate agent, they'll take care of the management side of the property. However, then there's another level where there's a lot of compliance, so they have audits going on just to make sure that the level of certification is maintained, and they also will maintain relationships with the care providers who you mentioned. Care providers essentially are the groups who look after the participants and their needs. So, there's different types of care providers. Some for whether it's physio, rehab, and there's a whole heap of different areas to what the NDIS allow for as part of their funding. However, we sort of are more concerned with the SDA or the accommodation care providers, because they're the ones who have so essentially they log the demand with their participants. So a participant might want to live in the specific area, so they'll have that in the system, and that's where the care provider, the service provider will maintain those relationships, so they know where the demand is. So essentially, it's not a build it and hope they will come scenario for an investor or the developer to hope that they're going to just build a house and that they're going to get it occupied. But as long as you do your due diligence up front and maintain these relationships, you will have a greater understanding of where the right locations to build are, and that's sort of where we come in as well. We're right around all aspects of that with those several groups.
Because the location of the land is one of those big factors that impacts upon the profitability of the yield, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the land's the land. Look, as I said before, there's obviously going to be a high demand for a long time. At the moment, you can build in different locations, and there's going to be a level of demand. But we like to future-proof our properties for the future, because as more come on the market, participants are going to have a greater selection of where they want to live, and they're going to pick the better houses in the more sought-after areas. So, you may have pot luck now and build in a certain location and still get it tenanted. However, we're looking at the continued viability of where these properties are built. I went a bit off track, but what you asked was the land is, the land's the only variable factor. As you move further out from the CBD, obviously then you're going to have cheaper lands, which will mean higher yields. So if you're going for a cash flow play, that may suit to go 25, 30, 40 to 50 Ks outside the CBD. However, if you're looking for some capital growth, you'd go closer to that inner or middle ring, I guess, because you will get the capital growth. However, returns may be a little bit less cash flow wise.
Even still, when we put the numbers together initially a long time ago, even the typical, say, investment in the inner suburbs of Sydney, first of all, land becomes a problem in those areas, and retrofitting existing property and trying to make it an NDIS accessible property or an SDA suitable property, it was just a nightmare, and the costs just
doesn't work. And
doesn't work. The
whole point of the scheme is to people with disabilities have been forgotten, and the whole point of the scheme is to rectify that and provide specific funding and specialised housing to improve the quality of life of people with disabilities. So it's for the social good. Where were we going with that?
I don't know, but you're right. It's participants in the NDIS scheme should not be limited into where they can live. The idea is to give them the same freedom and flexibility to I don't even like using the term ably bodied person, because these people suffer from all sorts of afflictions, often the result of an accident or incident or whatever, where they've been forced into a position where they require this specialist accommodation, and they shouldn't have to live, as historically has been the case, where in certain locations, miles away from family and friends, or away from nearby town centres and rail stations and all those sorts of things. So this program has given people an enormous amount of flexibility. So look, if you buy in the centre of Sydney, and I think we looked at one point an example in, I think, Five Dock or Leichhardt in inner Sydney, which is very close to the city. It's a very busy area and everything else, but still it returned. There was a positive return in there, despite the entry cost with the price of property, when any other property in the area would have returned, a negative result. We would have been sort of leaning on and relying on that capital growth, whereas the NDIS property still returned something, which and it would be very easily tenanted, and that's the thing. It would be very easily tenanted in that location, but people want to live anywhere. There are NDIS properties in Broken Hill and Bendigo and Ballarat, and I've only said B towns, haven't I? But all over Australia, because people want to live anywhere. And the SDA, or at least the NDIS scheme, and SDA accommodation provides that.
Well,
All these
people
acronyms
people
are
want to
getting
be
to me.
people want to be close to their families, because they want their freedom to a certain extent. However, they want their families close by, and we've dealt with some participants, families through doing our research, and often we've spoke to one lady, and her son was living in a facility 4 hours away in Orange, or yes,
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
right.
because there's not always going to be the level of care that is required just around the corner. So yeah, I think it's definitely going to increase the quality of life, and they've been forgotten. Like a lot of the time, young people, like you said, could be motor vehicle accident or something that's put them in a wheelchair, and they may be in their 30s, and they've been placed in a elderly home. So it's not really the environment for a young person to thrive.
I was just going to mention that the recent Royal Commission into Aged Care has exposed the number of young people that are living in aged care, and the horrible facilities, and to know, like, not that it's the fault of these retirement homes. Essentially, they're more nursing homes and things like that. But there's a level of neglect that applies there. They don't have the capacity and the facilities to properly care for and support, or maybe rehabilitate these individuals, and giving them access to a home that is funded through the government, and then care facilities. And that's something else we should come to, which is OA, or on-site overnight accommodation, which adds to the value of these homes.
Yeah, look, participants have the choice of depending whether you're an introvert or extrovert. Some people want to live on their own, so there's units that cater for someone that wants to live on their own. However, if there's other people that like shared housing, so that's just to have the company, friendship, I guess. So where we sort of do more of our transactions are in the 2 to 4 bedroom SDA shared homes. However, we've got access to units as well, and it's back to what you said. So an OOA essentially exists in the shared homes. So essentially, in that 2 to 4 bedroom home, for example, if it's a 4 bedroom home, you may have 3 participants who all require an overnight carer to live with them. So in this circumstance, between the 3 participants, they can essentially, through their plans, have a carer that is shared and will occupy one of the rooms in the house. You as the investor are still paid a certain rate of rental for that room. However, you're just allowing these, instead of being in a hospital or something where they can get constant care, you're going to have someone on site living with them to cater to their needs.
That's not necessarily full-time
Or
either, is it?
overnight,
It could be just overnight if they come in for 2 days a week, or something similar. One of the things I found bizarre, it's navigating the complexities of SDA accommodation and getting into this yourself without appropriate guidance is really, really hard work. One of the things we established really early on is that if you have a 2-bedroom unit, right, you have a one participant in a 2-bedroom unit, the landlord will be paid a higher rate on the schedule than if 2 people were occupying that same unit.
I think for one person, you don't, not exactly right, but it was about 110,000 rental for one person in a 2-bedroom unit. However, if you put two occupy both bedrooms, it was like 94,000 per annum.
Per year, and that tends to indicate
the level of
return that is available via these properties, because
we're scratching our head with that scenario and trying to understand why.
And the way that the walls were shared, and this was one of the presentations we went early on with one of our partners in Brisbane, and he sat down and was talking about which walls are shared, whether it's a side wall or a top wall, and he was talking about 2-story homes, and oh man, like, it got really complicated. So there was one particular mob we were dealing with initially before their costs became somewhat prohibitive for anybody is they were building, and they now, I believe they supply sort of nothing but, banks and self-managed super funds, or not self-managed super funds, but corporate super funds that want to invest in the SDA space. In fact, Macquarie, I think, set aside $500 million with a reserve of up to $2 billion into the project because they appreciate that it just returns this enormous amount of money. But this company specifically, who shall remain nameless, and they're a good company, they have a good product, no doubt about it. It's just the costs are somewhat unreasonable. But they were building 4 2-bedroom units because the SDA guidelines, I think, recommend 4 people if in a shared property. So they're going to have 4 people in an 8-bedroom house, essentially, with the on-site overnight accommodation. But having 4 people or 1 person in each of those 2-bedroom units meant the schedule rate was higher, so you got a higher return, and the cost of the build justified that and all sorts of stuff. But it gets really complex. So people are building these homes to cater almost for the return rather than building these homes for the actual participants that want to live there. And there is a crossover. There is a compromise that is made. So I guess what I'm leaning towards is, first of all, how do you fit into all of this? What's your role? What do you do in the space, and how can you facilitate this arrangement for the average investor or a self-managed super fund investor on a single contract?
Yeah, well, we do have single contract options now. At the start, it was a little bit more complex, but that's definitely an opportunity. However, where we come in is that we've navigated the space for 18 months now. We made it our mission to find the best solution because of all the moving parts. Instead of just putting it in a too hard basket, we decided to navigate and come up with the solution. We've dealt with many people in this space, whether it's care providers or participants, to try and get an understanding of what they're after. Even to the level working with builders to get the designs right, to see what is the best sort of layout for improved livability of a participant. So we went through several builders and vetted, I don't know, 10, 15. We've been through heaps of builders along the way. However, we've narrowed it down to a couple of really good builders who build a great sort of product. As you mentioned before, there's unit options available, but we navigated away from that. Just due to the exit strategy, because you got in a normal standard street, you got a bulky 4 2-bedroom unit complex, quite hard to strata. So you'd have to get an investor that would come in to buy that product, and usually they were sort of over the $2 million mark or thereabouts. Whereas this is in southeast Queensland, so that's quite expensive for Queensland. However, the price range that is sort of where we're at in an SDA home, which looks like a standard home from the front of the street. However, it's just a house on steroids with the extra fit out components, and just built really sturdy. Probably around 650 to 900k is probably where you're at, and you can very easily, if you don't want it to keep it as an SDA home, you can convert it into a normal residential home, move into it. So it's just got that better back end exit strategy, I guess.
But these are identical to that. They're beautiful homes. There's no distinguishing feature, certainly from the outside, that these are homes specifically built for people with perhaps some kind of disability. They just blend into the street, don't they?
Yeah, and even for the participants, they've got open space, larger hallways, obviously for wheelchair access, smart integration. You've got a kitchen that's designed with the right bench heights for the participants to make it very easy for them to move around. And also there's a breakout area. So if they want if it's a shared home, participants want their families over, they've got that extra space to either spend time with their families or even for the participants to spend time together.
Yeah, great homes. So moving on then, if somebody was interested in the space, they could come to you and you could then facilitate that arrangement. So from the initial inquiry, you could carry that right through to the construction of a home, participants occupying that home, having the facility, the home managed, and so on and so on and so on. You manage all those moving parts, don't you?
100%. That's what. So essentially, it's got to be viable because so many homes need to be built. The government's done. It's a really good incentive by giving higher returns. They're going to get more savvy investors invest in these homes, and that's one way to get them built. So essentially, what we can do, if we've got someone that wants to look into it, we can, hold their hand, give them like our expert advice. Once we've done an analysis on what they're after exactly and what their goals are. If that's not for them, we can definitely help them with a different investment strategy, and that's what we can do. We can put some high-level sort of plans in place. So that's, or if it is for them, because it's quite attractive, then like you said, we can project manage the whole process. And being from a building background, even though we're not the builder ourselves, we will keep on top of the build process, give regular updates to the client, and make sure that the project stays on track, even though the builders are very reputable and very reliable. Then coming towards completion, when you get your, it's like an OC, I guess, so it's obviously when you get your SDA approval. So we'll make sure that we've got sort of, towards the back end of the project, that we've got that level of interest and tenants ready to go in immediately, so we're earning income for the investor from day one.
However, because it's a specialised property, it does cost a little more to build. Borrowing can be a problem for a lot of people because the LVR doesn't. Yeah,
look, at present, a lot of the big banks haven't come on board, even though NAB have pledged $2 billion worth of funding towards it. We're yet to see any of the major lenders actually approve any loans for any of our clients. It's been more through Liberty, Latrobe, and Mortgage House. So just hopefully, as time goes on, the lending criteria will become a little bit easier, but at the moment you sort of need roughly 35% to 40% deposit to actually get into one of these properties. That's just for the initial construction period. Then I believe once you start, you get your leases in place and have tenants and start earning rent, you can, in theory, you can definitely go and refinance and get some of that equity out.
Yeah, that's deposit or equity, obviously. Although you had a couple recently where the valuations came in.
Yeah, we had two products, both around the 800K mark. One was on the dollar valuation-wise, and the other one was 20K under. So that was a great result for the client, because if anything, the product's probably already gone up because the land value has gone up. Some building costs have gone up on these homes, so it's been a good result for the client. As you mentioned, the fit out component is the thing that's been throwing the vows out, or up front anyhow. Like, even though these ones were on the dollar, just because you got, like I said before, you may have. Extra supportive beams, hoists, smart integration, extra wide hallways. These houses are actually, all the walls, there's no gyprock in the houses. They're all a concrete block system, just to make it more durable. They don't have a normal tin or tile roof. They're actually concrete, the roof. Okay. So they're very sturdy. Then that's just got to do with like heating and whatnot. So these specific builders have really gone that extra level to come up with the best solution.
Yeah, they're They're amazing homes. So I guess if people want to contact you in regards to an NDIS property, I'll introduce this now. 0414 you can
0414 745 684. Just give me a call. Happy to have a chat.
Or agenzia.com.au. That's agenzia.com.au. Agenzia. What is that? It means
It stands for Mr. West, Mr. Western Sydney. So you told me.
Mr. Western Sydney in Italian. I could say that joking because no one's ever heard it before. This is a new audience.
Yeah, okay.
But it's still not funny. But yeah, and I call you Mr. Western Sydney, so we'll move on. I call you Mr. Western Sydney. Well, if a lot of people do, that's how I came to know Anthony before I'd actually met him, was the tagline of Mr. Western Sydney. His office is on beautiful MacArthur Grange golf course, which is about a 10-minute drive from where we are here. And you drive up this nice big long driveway into this big 4-story luxurious,
it's a
beautiful.
golf club, yeah.
Well, it's a bit shabby at the moment. That's because you need to get out with a gurney and just clean the walls a little.
You're doing some renovations, yeah.
Yeah, you're doing some renovations at the moment. So this big, beautiful clubhouse and this golf course with the balconies, and the overlooking the range and everything. Like, it really is nice. And because you're kind of in a valley, you've got the escarpment off to the left and right, off to the eastern side and western side, don't you? And then the big dam off one side, which is more like an ocean. It's that big.
I called it a lake one day. He said, it's not a lake.
well, yeah, it's big enough. And it's so deep because when we had the droughts, it was empty.
Nearly empty, yeah.
And you could see down the bottom. It was like looking in a bottomless pit because, it just went on and on and on. Did you dig that yourself? Was that always there?
I didn't dig it.
No, not yourself.
It's always been there. It's been there. The golf course has been active over 20 years. So
you need to get fish in there. You can have like little fishing clubs that get together and that'd do really well. Some trout maybe.
Fly fishing.
I say that because there are people with trout farms and things like that out in this area. Okay. Remember that guy on Bridgelly Road and stuff. Anyway, this is a family-owned golf course, and this is one of the other things that, again, it's a notch in your credibility. You never talk about it. You don't talk about this stuff, but this is just one of the investments that the family has made over the years that you've managed, and you're intrinsically involved with this, potential development of certain areas of the.
Yeah, or just a long-term rezoning project, I guess, that we've taken on. That's all sort of why we've based ourselves there. So we're lobbying council and got some plans for the future. So that's just good to be in a nice location work-wise every day. So if you're having a bit of a stressful day, like we used to be in the city, and you look out to buildings, now you look out to greenery, and it's a bit more tranquil.
Yeah, it's actually really nice, and they've got this big function centre, and I've been telling Anthony for a long time he needs to have some presentations there. In the video we made for our clients earlier on today, I mentioned one of our programs with accountants. We're going to marry up to 15 accountants with any one broker as part of this accounting group that has come aboard with us. And we're in a rush to do this because they've just dumped their internal program. I thought, how can I get all these brokers into a room to explain everything to them and the compliance standards and that sort of stuff? And I thought, okay, I'll go to Anthony's golf club.
That's so it. I thought you might add that. I saw your email.
You saw that, did you?
Yeah.
If the renovations are in place, we might
they'll be done in 2 weeks. Yeah.
But either way, we've talked together about making use of the space and having a business cooperative, a bunch of people from the MacArthur region that just want to get together and network a bit. We're real life LinkedIn. The pretend LinkedIn is starting to bother me. Everyone's trying to model themselves on Tony Robbins. They get together and they just, make these nonsense videos where they talk about success and everything else. But it's just nice to get together with a bunch of real people. Yeah. Have a beer on the golf club there, on the balcony there, overlooking the course. And anyway, all that aside, but it is, one of those things that's important to recognise as part of your. Oh God, if people only knew what sort of person they were going to involve with when they came to see you about like a first home, and the extensive property experience you've got in the back end that no one in the real estate industry has. It's just, I think people are lucky when they find you. They're really, really lucky. And I've dealt with a lot of property people over the years, and and so no one compares in terms of your qualifications. And I know I'm sounding like I'm about to, I don't know, ask you for some cash or something, but it's just that's how it is. I think it's important to recognise.
Oh, look,
that.
we just love property, we love helping people, and it's just lucky that both go hand in hand in tandem, I guess. So
yeah, no, it's great. You do such a good job with it. Now, let's talk about just one of the things, the relationship I've had with you in a business sense. I've paired you up with a couple of brokers over, I don't know, the last 12 months or so. I've introduced you to some other property people and so on, and I'm normally very closed with introducing one person to another, because in those cases where it ends bad for them, it ends bad for me. You're one of the first people I kind of in a close circle of about 10 people, you're one of the first I ever introduced to anybody else. I did it very cautiously and carefully and managed the introductions myself and so on. That was to a guy in Brisbane who we're both still, great friends with. He's a really nice guy. And I've introduced you to a couple of brokers. One that I kind of regret a little bit, and one that has done, I think, an exceptional job. I know the relationship there is kind of new and developing and evolving and everything else, but they both, as far as I'm concerned, represent opposite ends of how brokers perform in terms of introduction. So before we talk about the two diametrically opposed relationships from a property perspective and as a property guy, and I've asked this question to maybe 500 property people over the years, and I'll ask you, in terms of having a mortgage broker that you have access to, what's the most important part of that relationship?
First of all, reliability, because when I introduced one of my clients onto a broker, like they're an extension of my business. So basically, for my own process, I need like a quick response time, first of all, and then probably even more so. That's one thing, but on top of that, it would be just the level of skill that they can bring to the table, because a lot of these people are going in with, not everyone's a savvy investor or a purchaser. So essentially, they need someone to hold their hand and give them some guidance on how they can proceed. So I think it's the beginning of the process, really. So if you got someone guiding you in the right direction from the start, so all I do with my clients initially is like a pre-qualification. Then by passing it on to a trusted broker, they're really doing all the hard slog to get more information out of the client, and sometimes they unpack things that I think I've had a great conversation with a client. However, all these other things come up because they've got a level of trust in the broker that I refer them to, and that's crucial to my business.
It is. It's. I think you've answered the question, and what I hear over and over and over again is real estate people want to have a working relationship with a broker that adds value to their business. They just want someone that adds intrinsic value to the process, to that funnel flow. And like I said, I have introduced you to at least two guys, maybe more. In fact, I have introduced you to more, but I've only introduced you to two and said, try these guys out. I think, but they are diametrically opposed. Now, I don't think anyone really understands a bad experience until they see what a good experience looks like. And not that the bad experience is a bad experience as per se, but it's not as good as the good experience. Yeah. And I'm just covering my ass by saying all this stuff. But certainly, let's talk about the one broker who is, at this point in time, just added that little bit of value to what you do in terms of the way he produces reports and guides clients through wealth creation strategies.
Oh, well, that just every client that comes back to me, because I get a really detailed level of analysis, and like when I'm saying a full detail, like it's often pages as well as some calculation, borrowing capacity sort of scenarios as well. So it's really high level. it's helped me like it just helps me understand what the next steps are, I guess, as well, and as well as the clients. And yeah, if someone's not ready, you just keep a relationship with them, a few touch points. But it just gives you a plan to move forward. So
Yeah.
it's been really good because when it's high level, it just the client comes back to you, and because you've referred the client to someone that's quality, they come back to you with a level of respect as well.
Yeah, that's right. And that's important. And we were going through the numbers before. Not that I want to lean towards the numbers, but it is important to understand the lucrative nature of, the broker real estate relationship, because, it's what we specialize in. And you said before, you've recommended or you've referred 60 people onto this one guy.
Yeah.
All right, these are ready to go people.
That's in the last couple of months. Yeah.
That's in the last couple of months. 60 in the last couple of months. All right, we worked out, okay, maybe that might be worth 30 million over 12 months if they followed through. Yeah. Multiply that by
500,000 ticket price just by 60, it's 30 million.
Yeah, that's just in the last
that's only over a couple of months.
Yeah, that could well and truly represent 150 to 200 million in volume over the course of 12 months. As it takes time, everything takes time to develop. Those people that go and see him now won't necessarily buy now, but it does put an emphasis as well on those relationship programs, those the edge pre-settlement programs, which are development programs, a lot of budgeting programs, which our guy is pretty big on, and that is sort of positioning people, or at least guiding people into saving the necessary deposit and so on, so they can take advantage of the purchase. That we're hoping that certain government grants are extended beyond New Year's Day 2021, because that does allow more people into the market, and the effects of COVID hopefully corner the government in such a way, and certain state governments now are lobbying for the removal of stamp duty and so on, which would then perhaps abolish the state based first-time buyer grants and so on. There's a whole bunch of things that everything is evolving and changing at the moment, and COVID has forced that. But nonetheless, I don't know how I went there, but certainly those programs to develop people into a purchase are important. And I just see that. Like I've got property guys that have taken guys on full time, essentially into their office, because they just keep this busy. They feed him $200 million worth of volume every year. There's a bunch of mortgage brokers I positioned about 2 years ago now, which was one of the bigger gigs, where people were doing about $1 billion worth of volume every year amongst them. There's this program that I introduced to our clients this morning. Is that still recording? Yeah, that's good. There's this program I introduced this morning through our accountant network, which will introduce you guys to a minimum. This is our broker growth guys, which we don't take on anymore, but all those guys that have met certain qualifying criteria will do an extra $70 million a year just by virtue of their connection with these accountants that we're going to connect with them. We're going to essentially chaperone people into these relationships. Like, there's nothing more important in a relationship-based business. Property and finance they both represent finance-based businesses. There's nothing more important in a relationship-based business than relationships. That's something you've been really good at too. You got relationships everywhere. You got these connections with so many people. So the cost of a $2 coffee can potentially yield.
Yeah, I'm happy. I've always been happy to get out of the office. Been happy to get out of the office, go have a coffee with someone, and even like you said, we want a real life LinkedIn. But that's sort of how I came across you at the time. Like, it was just you see people doing different things and connect via LinkedIn. So there is still a lot of amongst all the Tony Robbins. There's real people, even whether it's in the real world, just connecting with other brokers or conveyancers or other property people. Like, it just opens up opportunities, whether it's now or in the future. It's just good to keep an open mind. Yeah,
I am looking forward though to the real life LinkedIn at your golf course. Yeah. There are a number of times where I've called Anthony, or Anthony's called me, and I've said, okay, we'll go out past a pub somewhere or something else and say, we're not allowed to talk business. it's just you need to get out.
Time out, yeah.
You need to get out of the office. And you work so hard. You know, you're up at 4 a.m. every single morning.
Oh, not as hard as you, mate. You work around the clock.
You're
right?
up at 4 a.m. every morning. You work through till late at night. It's probably 8:30, 9 o'clock now, at least. 9 o'clock
Yeah,
you've got a watch on.
Yeah, 9:15.
9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So you've been up all day.
So, yeah.
You never sleep. Anyway,
it's all good, all good.
that's good. It means people you're going to be
fun.
around to take phone calls. So let's wrap this up, guys. Anthony, thanks for coming
mate.
by
Thanks
so
for having me.
late in the evening.
Nah, it's all right. Just warming up.
Yeah, you could go home and start your night, right?
Yeah.
All right. So if people do want to contact you, your website is agenzia.com.au. That's agenzia.com.au, and your telephone number is
0414 745 684.
We will have your 1-800-1300 number connected next month. We won't give people your landline for that reason.
Okay. No worries. Mobile's fine. It's always on me, or I'm always contactable. So happy to take a call.
Yeah, okay. Excellent. Thanks very much, mate.
No, thank you. It's been enjoyable. Talk soon.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Goodbye.
Thanks. Cheers.